What's up, everyone? How's it going? Welcome to today's market analysis or trade recap session. Today is May the 14th, and unfortunately, we were not able to even view the market live here today because we had some other things to do in the morning. So, what we'll be doing is we're going to analyze the entire market session and we'll overlook some key points on footprint and see what moves we could have potentially caught here on the day. So let's go ahead and get started. Keep in mind that today we did have high impact news at 9:30. So let's go ahead and first mark out if there was any high impact news liquidity right at 9:30. And it looks like the 9:30 candle wasn't too bad, so no real liquidity has been gathered from that candle specifically. Let's go ahead and mark out our key levels, and for today, actually never mind. We'll be looking over both ES and NQ and create decisions from that. So let's mark out where 8:30 market open is and let's get started. So we do have lower liquidity down here. You have upper liquidity up here. The up move is quite heavily extended. You could potentially consider this as an area. You have main liquidity here. You have main liquidity up there, alongside a nice 4-hour supply zone. This would also be a 4-hour supply zone, but I'm not liking how big it is and the fact that we're already near the top. So I'm not marking that out completely yet. Let's go into the 1 hour, see if there's anything else. Nothing there, nothing there. Let's go to here. And nothing here as well. So pretty straightforward structure. Let's go ahead and mark out volume profiles as well. So it does look like our point of control is below, but if you take a look, volume is getting developed up at this area. So I'm not too worried about price coming down quite yet because volume is getting developed at the price that we are at. Now let's go ahead and extend this further to those highs. Now, where we're at is an area of high volume node. So honestly, depending on the long-term scale, we might either go down or head up towards this area. So if we break the supply zone, I believe that we have high probability of heading towards these highs right here. So just keep that in mind. So that was a volume profile analysis. Now let's go ahead and mark a structure on ES as well. Marking out the 8:30 time. Today it looks to be a very choppy type of day. Alright. Potentially lower liquidity there. Liquidity there. Pretty much the same thing as NQs that I'm noticing now. But we don't have that supply zone. But what we do have is we do have a nice supply zone there, which would have gotten broken. So we will not be marking that out. This is our closest liquidity to those highs. Everything else would have been broken. That's what we got down on the 4 hour. We can mark this out as well, because why not? Let's go ahead and see if there's any more in-depth levels for us to notice. Not seeing much, but I do see that there is liquidity up there now. So keeping that in mind as well. But also take a look that this liquidity got swept and we fell down. So I'm gonna leave this here for now, just for backtesting purposes, but I do want to keep that in mind. I want to see if I can mark that level and that level, but we'll see which one had their high sweep. Looks like we are clear for both of them to stay. So what I noticed already is there's a lot of liquidity up towards the upside that price may want to go ahead and capture. Let's go ahead and mark out the volume profile. Same thing as NQ, although their POC is here, volume is getting developed at the relative areas that we are at. At the lower liquidity levels, we have this volume. At the upper liquidity levels, we have this volume. So depending on how we show expansion, we can head to either of those. But nothing really indicating direction towards us yet. Now, on an extended volume profile, what I see is that there is volume here at these lower liquidity levels. You have volume here at these upper liquidity levels. Now, if we break these upper liquidity levels, then we can potentially head to this upper liquidity area where there's also a good amount of volume. We want to pay attention to high volume nodes and understand what the actual meaning of the growth of volume or the significance of the appearance of volume at a certain area as compared to simply looking at the POC line and overemphasizing that. We want to keep everything in context. So what I see is that I truly need action, and I want to either see price show clear signs of heading towards the upside or clear signs of heading towards the downside. If you head towards the downside, we can target these two levels. If you head towards the upside, we can target these levels up there. But all depends on what the market gives us. That is what ES is showing us. Now, for the sake of backtesting and analyzing with bookmap and footprint, I will stay on ES and create trade setups on ES. So let's see what happened right at market open. So prior to market open, what I noticed was that we swept this high and swept the liquidity at that area, created pretty good sign regarding price action that price may want to reverse with these three highs right here. It's a triple top. And that is showing us that price is struggling to move higher at a decent rate, showing the price may reverse itself. So at market open, we saw our last leg up. We swept this liquidity level, keep that in mind. This actually would have been quite great. What you notice is that right at market open, we swept this upper liquidity level, made our way all the way down to guess where? To this lower liquidity level. And if you're going even more significant, we made our way and took out these lows right here, which likely could be considered liquidity as they are the lows that have high significance. And as you see on the 15-minute, it would be a demand zone. So keep that in mind. We went straight from upper liquidity level to the lower liquidity level. Then we went up, made a retracement towards overall sell move, and captured the lower liquidity completely. After that, we headed back up. That was essentially the entire market session here today. The conclusion of market session at 10:35-ish, and the start around 8:30 which should be that candle and that candle. So regarding the pivot points, I do want to backtest. I want to backtest and analyze this pivot point. Look at the action that's going around here. Look at the action that's going around here at the top. And look at what's going around here. What I'm looking for at here, 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 and here is signs of absorption or acceptance from liquidity on both footprint and the book map. So let's go ahead and get into it by starting off with this level right here, right around market open at 8:35. Let's go to the Live Alex Think with Bookmap YouTube channel. Great resource. I highly recommend you guys to take a look at it. We will be going to that 8:30 to 8:40 time, 8:30 to 8:35 time period. CST, of course. And see what happened there. So what it looks like was that price opened and the market went directly up. Now we have this key liquidity level up here at 5925. And from that main liquidity, it does seem that we saw absorption for that level. And this would be a case of visible bookmap absorption. And you might be wondering why. As we came up to these highs, price created and struck through a lot of buying orders in decent amount of volume. But these buy orders could not break this level right here. Soon after, a small retracement, we saw 277 iceberg orders get introduced into the market, the introduction of barriers. So right when you saw this barrier introduction, you likely could have shorted with a stop over 5922. So let's go ahead and see the results of that. Entry would be 5917 as a late entry. Stop over 5922. 5922.5 estimately. We'll keep it 5 ticks above, around 30 ticks. And where do we target? We are going to target at least a 1-to-1, or we'll exit at invalidation. But for now, 5910 is not a bad target, which does put us at around the 1-to-1, risk to reward ratio, which isn't the greatest, but it is likely that our targets could have been 5905 because of slow buildup of liquidity there, or even better yet, if you simply just look at the charts, right around 5900 we have lots of liquidity on bookmap. So truly 5900 is going to be our main target, simply because that is the biggest target here on bookmap that is clearly visible, 5900. If you look at it, what happened after? We went directly to 5900 relative area. I want to see what exactly happened. And around that 5900 area, we started stalling around this area, generating high amounts of seller liquidity again and again. Couldn't break through, saw a heavy amount of buy stops, could get an exit around 5905. Yeah, so yeah, that's a 1.57 risk reward to a 1-to-2 risk reward. So the trade made around that 8:35 time would not have been a bad shout, but because 8:35 is so soon after market open, you do have to be careful and would likely have been avoided. But let's also take a look at the footprint chart and see if there was true absorption there as well. Right here at these highs. And wow, would you look at that right there? This is honestly a very, very clear example of absorption. If you take a look right here, you see a heavy amount of buying delta just getting introduced here at the top. And on bookmap, you see this buying volume actually come in, but it is unable to push through this passive selling wall resulting in the price to go down. As we came down and came back up, in this single candle, we started seeing heavy selling delta start to incur within this candle. And since we saw absorption on both footprint and book map, we saw the introduction of barriers and we saw the introduction of heavy selling delta. That provides a great confluence that the sells might be a good idea. And this is all on top of the chart analysis that we saw the higher buy side liquidity get swept, and order flow just validates that to the next level. Now that we've analyzed one potential trade that we could have made, let's go ahead and analyze the action that was happening here down at these lows. See when that low move ended at 9:10. So what I see happening is that price is essentially just moving from one side of the range to the other side of the range in terms of bookmap liquidity. Honestly, there's nothing really special going on, but within each one of these candles, we're likely seeing absorption above and below. And by doing so, we're analyzing this above area as well. But if I'm not to be mistaken, 5930 and 5945, we start to see that selling had to take additional significance because selling has been making lower highs and that barriers are getting introduced. But we are maintaining a strong level down at the lows. And as you notice, as we're starting to come up, we are trying to test this level, and that level is not showing. Buyers are unable to push through that level, and now sellers are coming in. So we break that level, come back up to that same level. Here on bookmap, come back up to that same level with heavy selling interest. And now there's further confluence of that selling interest because if you take a look at the spread of this liquidity, we see that the liquidity is getting spread down, showing that sellers want to push the ask down more in terms of passive sell orders sitting there, ensuring that sell orders can take over and push through all these barriers here on bookmap. These two would likely be an insignificant barrier. These three actually, because we have a decent size significant barrier right there at 5902. Which was our liquidity level. So from that, a short potentially could have been taken at around 11 or 10 a.m. on NQES. And let's go ahead and see bookmap for all of that too. Yeah, I mean, if you just take a look at it, what we're seeing at these lows, just by looking at delta, you're seeing heavy selling delta near the bottom, heavy buying delta near the top of these candles. So we're seeing equal absorption within these candles without proper divergence, typically indicative of a choppy market. And honestly, it would have been hard to foresee this breakout that happened simply because we've been chopping the whole time prior, and a breakout may be hard to achieve. Now, what I do see is that here we're seeing lots of buying deltas start to get introduced. Price is unable to push higher. It could not even get to this level where we previously saw high buying delta. And now we're seeing heavy seller delta get introduced. And when I mean heavy, I mean really heavy. Now with this seller delta, it might be indicative that price may want to go down. But as you see before as well, heavy selling delta, heavy selling delta, heavy selling delta. This absorption is not really crazy in terms of analysis because we saw that before as well, and that could have led to many break-even trades as we test the longs near the bottom and get stopped break-even because price comes back to where we are ending. Or we could have taken multiple shorts that got break-even as well because price came back up a multitude of times. So this overall time period of market action from 8:50 to 9:55 was very choppy and hard to trade. So honestly, I don't see any setups here. We likely could have found setups here, here, but all of them would have likely been stopped out or even or just taken for a loss, which is the unfortunate setting of a choppy market. But if we did happen to have re-entered there, a good short would have been made, but that is all hindsight. So I do want to see if there was a long potential that could have been taken here at 10:05-ish area. Or coming back here, sorry. I do want to see if there's long potential here at 10:05-ish area because we were just choppy this whole time here. We likely could have taken trades here, and here, and we would have either got stopped to break even or stopped for a loss, and that is the unfortunate nature of choppy markets. So let's go ahead and see what happened at this area. And this area is significant because we swept main liquidity. So I do want to see a reaction from this area. 10:05, 10:10. So what I see happening at the 10:05 area was that sellers sweep through all these buying barriers or levels here on Bookmap with a large amount of selling volume. Here at these lows especially, selling came in with heavy strength, but now that we've touched into this level, price is having lots of trouble sweeping through as we had previously did. Now if we look at the footprint chart, what do we see at these two candles? Look at how much selling delta is in this one candle. And look at how much selling delta is within this candle as well. We see large amounts of selling delta here near the bottom and here around that overall area, but price has struggled to continue to push lower, resulting in a reversal as on Bookmap our targets are higher around the 5950 area, which unfortunately we do not get to, but we do get to this 5920 relative area, which is also a micro target, and there are not much targets lower within a reasonable extent. So on footprint, we saw lots of absorption around that relative area, saw that there was levels at the area, saw buying aspirates get introduced, and we were from a key liquidity level. You likely potentially could have entered off of this right here, maybe 505900 if you're unfortunate. Stop loss below this barrier, so around 5980, 5980, 5890. Around 5980, targeting invalidation, which would have likely been around 5920. And now might be a good area to exit. 5920 did happen to be the area of selling composure. So potentially around 5917 would have been an exit, meaning that this would have been a decent trade that could have been taken simply because we saw confluence in liquidity. We saw that liquidity might cause a difference in sweep because we're seeing seller absorption proven by Bookmap's heat map. You see buy stops getting filled and buy aspirates coming in. that are holding quite well despite these icebergs and 1000 stops, showing that buyers, there might be passive buyers behind the scene actually helping to push price upwards. And yeah, these two cancel out by that. But yeah, that's honestly it now. You might have been able to take two liquidity trades targeting the next liquidity level, or if you do a continuation trade or another reversal, you likely would have got stopped out for break even, or stopped for a loss, or gotten lucky and took a profit if you have traded within this choppy period of time right there. And it was in this choppy period of time that news was there. So let's cut out the news time. Meaning that we likely could have won trade around this time there or this time there, in which we would have already identified that we were in a choppy market and that we should wait for clear signals of either absorption or divergence before entering. But honestly, that's pretty much it here for today. We analyzed the key levels here for today. We marked out the key levels to look for. We did volume profile analysis, book map analysis, and footprint analysis of our key levels, and showed that two potential winning trades could have been made if you had taken a short from these highs or a long from these lows based on book map and footprint and order flow backed data and traits. That's honestly all I have here for today. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. I'll be happy to answer them there. Or go ahead and join the Discord server. Everything is completely free within the Discord server, and we hope to help every trader in need. That's all I have here for today. I'll see you guys tomorrow for another market recap or trade recap session here tomorrow. And I guess I'll see you guys then.